Trade talks between the United States and Canada have resumed, marking a critical juncture in the ongoing saga of North American economic relations. But this time, the stakes are higher than ever, with both nations acutely aware that the decisions made here could have far-reaching consequences. The U.S. team, under President Trump, is taking a hardline approach, demanding major concessions and signaling a willingness to walk away if their terms aren't met. Canadian officials, led by Prime Minister Carney, are bracing for a tough fight to protect key economic interests, determined not to be pressured into a deal that could harm Canadian industries or workers. The atmosphere is tense, with both sides aware that the outcome will shape North American trade for years, potentially redefining the rules of engagement for generations to come. The looming USMCA review in October adds urgency, as Trump uses it as leverage to push his agenda, making every negotiation session feel like a race against the clock. Every decision at the table now carries weight for businesses, workers, and consumers on both sides of the border, with livelihoods and supply chains hanging in the balance. The tone has shifted from cooperation to confrontation, forcing Canada to rethink its strategies and adapt quickly to the new, more aggressive negotiating environment. Long-held assumptions about mutual benefit are being challenged, and the continent is watching closely, with public opinion and political pressure mounting on both sides. Success will require sharp strategy, careful diplomacy, and a deep understanding of the complex economic and political forces at play, as even small missteps could have major repercussions. The future of a deeply integrated partnership hangs in the balance, with the potential to either strengthen or unravel decades of cooperation. This is a pivotal moment in U.S.-Canada relations, one that will be remembered for years to come. President Trump's demands now reach far beyond traditional trade, targeting not only tariffs and market access, but also energy, dairy, defense, and even Canadian social policy. The scope of these demands is unprecedented, signaling a new era in cross-border negotiations. The U.S. wants fewer restrictions on oil pipelines, aiming to boost American energy exports, and is pushing for greater access to Canada's tightly regulated dairy market, both long-standing points of contention that have fueled debate for years. American negotiators are also pressing Canada to increase its defense spending, tying security commitments directly to economic partnership and raising questions about the future of the North American alliance. Most controversially, the White House is demanding that Canada relax its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, pushing the talks into the sensitive realm of domestic policy and igniting public debate on both sides of the border. This broad and aggressive agenda complicates negotiations, making compromise harder than ever and increasing the risk of a breakdown in talks. Each demand carries significant political and economic consequences for Canada, from questions of national sovereignty to the protection of key industries and the preservation of Canadian identity. Prime Minister Carney's government now faces the daunting task of balancing the defense of Canadian values and institutions with the urgent need to appease its largest trading partner and maintain economic stability. The U.S. position is multifaceted and uncompromising, with negotiators refusing to back down, leaving little room for simple trade-offs or easy solutions. The result is a tangled web of issues, with no easy path to resolution as both sides dig in and the list of unresolved disputes continues to grow. The pressure on Canada is immense, with business leaders, politicians, and ordinary citizens all feeling the weight of uncertainty, and the stakes are only growing as the talks drag on. These talks are no longer just about trade, they're about the future direction of Canadian society, touching every aspect of daily life, from the economy to social values. The outcome will set a powerful precedent for how far trade negotiations can reach into national policy, shaping the relationship between Canada and the United States for years to come. The threat of new tariffs is ever present, looming over every aspect of North American trade and casting a long shadow on cross-border commerce. President Trump has made tariffs his signature move, wielding them as his main source of leverage in negotiations and using them to pressure trading partners into making concessions. Prime Minister Carney expects tariffs to be part of any deal, signaling Canada's readiness for tough outcomes and a willingness to stand firm even when the stakes are high. The constant uncertainty disrupts Canadian industries, making long-term planning nearly impossible for businesses and leaving workers anxious about their future. For the U.S., tariffs are a blunt but effective tool, especially in an election year when political leaders seek to demonstrate strength and protect domestic jobs. The upcoming USMCA review only amplifies the pressure, with Trump hinting at swift penalties if American demands aren't met, raising the stakes for both sides. Canada must carefully weigh the cost of concessions against the risk of economic damage from new trade barriers, knowing that every decision could impact thousands of jobs and entire industries. Tariffs have turned the talks into a high-stakes confrontation, forcing Canada to prepare for multiple scenarios and develop contingency plans for whatever outcome may arise. Every conversation is shadowed by the threat of economic penalties, shaping the entire negotiation process and ensuring that the specter of tariffs remains impossible to ignore. As talks continue, legal battles in the U.S. challenge Trump's authority to impose tariffs for national security. If successful, these cases could strip him of a key negotiating weapon. But the outcome is uncertain. Even if tariffs are curbed, the administration is ready with targeted restrictions on Canadian industries. Canada, meanwhile, is preparing for every scenario, developing contingency plans and seeking new trade partners. Diversifying away from U.S. dependence is now a top priority for Ottawa. Both governments are under intense domestic pressure to deliver results without sparking a trade war. The negotiation is a complex dance of legal maneuvers, political posturing, and strategic planning. The path forward is anything but clear, with both sides maneuvering for advantage. Personal rivalries and past grievances between leaders and advisors are shaping the negotiations behind the scenes. Trump's confrontational style and his advisors' push for a hard line make compromise elusive. Memories of past acrimonious talks, like those that created the USMCA, fuel entrenched positions. The lack of personal rapport and hawkish advisors push both sides toward brinkmanship. In this drama, personalities in history are as influential as policy. The U.S. is now pressuring Canada to roll back its environmental, social, and governance (ESG) and diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) policies. This unprecedented demand links trade to Canada's internal values, putting Carney in a political bind. The talks have moved beyond tariffs and quotas, forcing Canada to choose between its progressive values and economic stability. Many Canadians see this as an attack on national identity and sovereignty. Conceding could trigger backlash at home. Refusing could mean economic punishment. The inclusion of ESG and DEI on the table marks a new, more ideological front in the dispute. The path to agreement is now more treacherous than ever. Experts warn that U.S.-Canada trade tensions are likely to persist for years, not months. Trump's unpredictable style and the expanding list of U.S. demands make a quick resolution unlikely. Canadian negotiators must stay flexible, ready for sudden shifts and new demands at any moment. The volatility forces Canada to accelerate trade diversification and strengthen its domestic economy. The era of predictable, rules-based trade is giving way to constant negotiation and political pressure. Businesses must build resilient supply chains. Government must invest in diplomacy and public readiness. Adaptability and strategic foresight are now essential for navigating this new reality. The future will be defined by uncertainty and the need for resilience. These trade talks are just one part of a complex U.S.-Canada relationship that spans security, energy, and the environment. The outcome will ripple across the entire alliance, potentially straining cooperation in other areas. Canada's pause on new tariffs signals a desire to de-escalate, even as the U.S. ramps up demands. The asymmetry of the relationship forces Canada into a reactive stance, always responding to U.S. priorities. In this era, trust and strategy are the most valuable currencies. The future of the partnership depends on whether both nations can rebuild trust and find common ground.